And for those of you who don't know, I'm Garrett Cronin. I'm one of the account managers here at IMGS. Today's webinar is on asset management. As we all know, it's quite a popular topic at the moment, and there seems to be a real drive from local and state agencies to understand the asset portfolio they have, whether that's land banks, buildings themselves, even street furniture, which some councils are capturing as well. So there's a real drive there for people to start understanding that instead of working in these silos away from it and to kind of run some analytics. So in terms of today's agenda, Ciaran and I try not to keep you too long. I'm going to give a quick overview of IMGS. I can see from the attendees that are here knows who we are, but just for those who might be watching back. Then Ciaran's going to talk about asset and property management as a whole. Ciaran would have been involved in quite a few projects over the last 13, 14 years. So just to talk about that, and you can speak about that, and then finally we'll talk about the solution itself, the new solution that we've based it on, which is Map Enterprise from Hexagon Geospatial. It's worth noting that Map Enterprise will also work with existing GIS technologies as well, so it does complement if you have multiple systems on site. We're going to give a quick video demonstration as well, and then from there I'm going to touch on reporting, and that's definitely something from the feedback that Ciaran and I have gotten from speaking to a few different agencies, that reporting seems to be the key. So we're going to talk a bit about reporting, and then we'll do a quick summary. As always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. You can put up your hand and ask a couple of questions, and yeah. So for those of you who don't know, IMGS have been working in Ireland for over 17 years now, and we have three main partnerships. One is with Safe Software, who pretty much most people will know as FME. We also partner with Hexagon Geospatial, who are the proprietors or the vendors of Map Enterprise, the solution we're going to speak about today, but they also have the likes of Iridas Imagine, which I know a lot of councils use for the likes of remote sensing, and some other tools there like mobile, etc. And then finally, Talend is our latest partnership, which is all around big data, remote engines, self-service analytics, and the overall migration of data on a large scale. So in terms of who we are and our customers, as we know, or as most people know, we work with every local authority in Southern Ireland. So every council is a customer of ours in one shape or another, whether that be FME, Hexagon or Talend. We also work with the majority of state agencies as well, people like the Defence Forces and the Navy. We also work with the national mapping agencies, both north and south, and then other organisations like the Med-Air and the DAA, etc. And then finally, utilities. We work with the majority of the utilities as well in Ireland, people like Irish Water, ESB, and actually one of our newest customers, ENET. So I'm going to hand over to Ciaran, who's going to talk about Dublin City Council. I'm going to give him the buttons here so he can take over, and he'll bring you through some of the previous deployments that we've done for asset management.
Thanks, Gareth. Good afternoon, everybody. So yeah, we've been working with a number of products over the years in providing asset or property management, to be specific, solutions for local government. And one of the first projects we got involved in was the property register for Dublin City Council. So initially, Dublin City came to us and said they wanted to be able to scan some of the legacy hard copy property maps that they had in the City Council. Now these were pretty old maps that were stored in the filing cabinet, and they were actually getting very damaged because they were getting so old. So the maps were very old, but they had very, very key property information wrote in marker onto the maps. And actually, some of that data was even wrote on the side of the map. So the first thing they said to us, well, these are going to be very big scans, because at the time, this was about 2003, 2004, they were like, when they scanned these images, you were going to get like a 500 or 600 meg file for each image. And naturally, at that time, that was what we talk about big data these days, but that actually was big data. So to be able to take that information and share it up over the intranet in the council was their main requirement. And could we provide it so that people in the department, if they came in with a property query about a property, that they could bring up these maps and interrogate the information on the map. So they were able to use OSE to scan the maps. We then brought them into GMedia Web Map, but also added the ability that when the customer came in and inquired about the property, that the member of the council staff was able to draw up the polygon of the boundary the property boundary that they were looking at, fill into the database the information that was on the map, so that the next time they could just go query straight to the database and get the information. So that was the first iteration of the property register. They then came on to us at a future stage and asked that whether, once that was proven, and that was like a small filing cabinet of hard copy maps, Dublin then came back and said, well, actually, we've got all our folio documents, and this was in a big cabinet that was kind of a robotic system that they used to bring all the folio information, and they said, we're going to scan all this data and bring it into your system as well. So we actually then were able to build even more advanced asset management forms that could then capture this full folio record. So they then used it was RMSI, because of the scale of the scanning. Actually, they used RMSI in this phase to scan all the documents and also to digitize the folio locations, the property locations, into the GeoMedia database. And then we were able to use the GeoMedia web map viewer to actually interrogate that data and provide the user with the ability then to check all the transactions and check all the information. So you can see on the left on the map there, you can see the scanned transaction record. So in some cases, there is a polygon map, but then there was all the folio PDFs, all the information, the acquisition details, the disposal details, all the documents were available in the cabinets. So we created a little cabinet structure which reflected the way the documents were always stored. But to make it easier to use going forward, actually the users could go on to the map, do a spatial query, and then it would show all the property records for the current map view. Or they could do a street search or what. So it meant they could interrogate all the property transactions going back the year dot through a simple, easy to use web viewer. And this became really, really useful for Dublin City Council, and it's still being used to this day as their sole location for all their property transaction details information. The next project we then did was to take that technology, but we then moved it on to GeoMedia Smart Client for Shannon commercial properties. So Shannon look after the property in the Shannon free zone. So naturally, when the free zone was there, they owned an awful lot of land, owned an awful lot of buildings and offices and sites. So they needed a solution to manage all that property data. They had a legacy AutoCAD system, so they wanted something that could capture data as accurate as it was captured in AutoCAD, but in a web, easy-to-use interface. So they selected IMGS and GeoMedia Smart Client to provide this solution. So with this version, because all the data capture was being done through Smart Client, they needed accurate boundary capture and being able to edit the polygons, the land polygons at large scales. The good thing with Smart Client is it allows you to snap to the underlying ordnance survey boundary. So that way, the data is very accurate. It's as accurate as capturing as the ordnance survey data is. They also wanted geometry validation tools. So a building must be in a land bank. So whenever you draw a building, it would do a spatial query to make sure that it's contained in a land bank. So we were able to automatically build in those rules. And we integrated the system with the financial and document management systems. And we did it, and a big requirement naturally with land data, property data, was being able to print off those records to the land registry standards. And this is an example of the Shannon site. So you can see here the user is capturing the building. You can see it snapping to the underlying ordnance survey data. So again, very, very accurate, but very easy to use. And if the guy captures the boundary outside the land site, you will get a warning when it saves the data here, and then say, you tried to capture that polygon. It's not fully inside a land bank. You need to redraw. So he can then redraw the polygon, and this time it'll work because the site is captured within the feature. So, and it's these kind of tools that actually simplify the data capture process, provide easy to use functionality, but very advanced functionality at the same time. So again, that polygon was accurately captured off the ordnance survey land base very, very quickly. You can see as well when we went around those sharp corners and the indents, smart client was able to snap along and track to that boundary very easily. So the latest, then we actually took that solution and implemented it in Sligo County Council, who again not only wanted to mark up all the property assets, but also mark up the every asset that the council owned. So being able to actually again do all that kind of advanced capture. They also want to use some more of the redlining tools and again plotting, and they moved to SmartLine 2015. And again, we have a short demo of that solution. So you can see now, again, newer version of GeoMedia SmartLine. It's running here with Bing Maps. You can see we have thematics of all the land bank information. Again, you've got nice navigation tools, so you can move previous, move back. You can zoom by polygon. But now we introduce for Sligo a very nice asset search control. So the ability to view all the assets in the database, both assets that have been captured and those that are yet to be captured as their polygon. So we can do the asset search, filter by it, hit a type, and then the search will pop up, say for the case, a townland. And then when they pick the townland, you'll see the search filters. And so just to make it again, every time we release that iteration of our asset register, it was making it easier and easier to use, making it more productive. So you can see here's all the assets in the register. We've got a map to an edit and a button to open up the asset form. You can see when you maps to there, it highlights it on the map. Again, if we had a bigger screen, you'd be able to see both the form and the map in the one area. And also with the nice new search form, we also have the ability to create a report, so you can actually filter by your data and export that to CSV or to PDF, and that information is brought out. So actually a very new nice functionality that we introduced with the Sligo County Council's version of the solution. Okay. And so then we were very happy with we're a Hexagon geospatial partner. So we've built our asset register across a number of iterations of the Hexagon platform, starting with GeoMedia. GeoMedia Web Map. We then moved to Smart Client, which provided very feature-rich functionality. It's a great solution, but it is an enterprise solution, and it's meant for many users. And as we were looking to roll this out to our other local authority customers, we felt that a lot of these councils really only wanted an asset management component or an asset management map, an app with a map. So with the evolution of Hexagon's Smart Map products and now Map Enterprise, which allows you to create these little specific, focused, targeted, lightweight apps in your organization, we have now moved our asset register solution onto Map Enterprise. So what is Map Enterprise? Well, Map Enterprise it's a platform which combines a rich client, a thin client, dashboard, and now I seen last week coming to be released in September, a mobile application. So one platform for a full suite of geo products, from a rich client, which in essence is the next iteration of the Smart Client application we've shown you a second ago, to a thin client, which again is the next iteration of GeoMedia Web Map, which we showed. And on top of that, the ability to create very nice dashboards, to do nice analytics, and now with the mobile application for both offline and online editing in the field. But the idea of Map Enterprise is you're not providing the user with a full GIS with loads of buttons they're never going to use. The idea is you build specific maps or apps that they can use for their specific workflow. Also, the big value of Map Enterprise is that it's a software as a service model. So you pay as you go and you pay as you use. So the pay as you go model. So that means you don't have to be a big capital expenditure up front and buy, like before with Smart Client, the customer had to buy that license, buy that software up front, and then use it. In this case, you can take at a lot cheaper option the amount of usage you need for the solution. So if it's only one user for 1 hour a week, well, that's all you pay for. But you still get the full portfolio of products, the rich client, the thin client, the mobile, and the dashboard. So with Map Enterprise, it is very much like the combination of both the G-Media Web Map solution we started off with in Dublin City Council and Smart Client. It's a combination of these solutions all under one platform. Sorry. So we were actually approached by Monahan County Council, who wanted to implement this solution. But again, Monahan had used other GIS platforms, so they really were only focused on having the asset register for, I think it's a couple of users who are doing their asset management workflow. So Monahan, so we now have a video. So again, has all the functionality you saw with the Sligo application, has all the functionality we've developed, the IPR we've developed over the years. But the really good thing for us was Map Enterprise has a full interface for importing the workflows that we create in Smart Client into Map Enterprise. So actually, we had to do a little bit of tweaking, but we were actually able to reuse all those 10 years of IPR and bring them into the latest product. And straight away, as you can see now, we're starting up the video. It's a very clean interface, very modern, light. So we have our navigation tools in the rich client. So again, you can zoom into an area, zoom to extent. You can see we've color-coded the background maps are using OSI Map Genie data brought into WNTS, I believe, and we can zoom around the map, zoom preview, zoom in. Again, very, very similar to what you see with the Smart Client. But you will notice the interface for the user is a lot simpler, lot lighter, lot cleaner. Only the buttons that need to be used. So you can see on the top there, there's an edit button and a search button. On the side, we have bookmarks. So what a bookmark allows us to do is the bookmark allows you to define a location where you can actually save your work. So again, this is a web application, so you might become to 5:30 in the evening and say, oh, I have to go home, but I'm in the middle of an area, I've set the map up to how I want to see it, and I want to come back to that work tomorrow morning. Well, you can actually bookmark that. So it'll remember where you are, remember what legend items you turned on. So you can see here in the legend, we have different assets are thematically colored. You can turn on different things. If you bookmark that feature, it'll remember the location. It'll also remember what way you set the legend up, what scale you're at. So it actually is exactly how you left the workspace when you saved it. And again, the bookmark can be saved for 6 months to a year, and you can also share bookmarks across the organization. With the new asset, we have a new asset form, very similar to what we've seen in Sligo. We've brought that form across. You create your asset type, you enter the number, and then the asset ID is auto-populated, again, speeding up the workflow for the users so that they don't have to be entering in every bit of information. So we can put in the folio name, who is bought off, and then if it's a lease, we can record who the asset is leased to, what's the lease start date and end date. Again, very useful for reporting purposes. So you could then have queries to find out, which assets are due for renewal. So you send them a letter and you can issue that. So again, or do a query on the database to say, okay, show me all assets that are going to renew in the next month. Once you fill in the basics, you can then digitize on the map. So you can see as we're starting our digitizing, we're able to zoom and pan during the digitize, which again is very useful. Not all web systems can do that. We can see how here we're navigating the map. We're able to snap onto the geometry. So again, very accurate, like we've seen with the Smart Client. And we're very able to quickly capture the polygon and save the data into the database. Then brings back the form, and you now see all the other tabs now opened up. So you can see if it's a disposal, we can fill in the disposal information, so the name, the asset, the date, time, when it's disposed, and how much for. And again, all these forms are configurable to your own requirements, but this is the off-the-shelf asset register that we provide our local government customers. And again, we can put in the asset information. what's the description. You can see on the next box, the area of the polygon was auto-generated. And again, if it's a large area, it'll go from square meters to square kilometers automatically. You can put in the folio number and any dates and properties. And it's actually now available at the minute, but with the September release, we'll also have the ability to insert images onto the asset as well. So we've also got a number of other tabs there. So we have the asset information itself. We then have the acquisition tab. So that allows you to say how the asset was purchased and any conditions against the site. So for argument's sake, if ESB have a whale permission that they can provide, or if someone's allowed to walk their horses across your field or whatever it is, that you can record those things again. That is very important for local government, so that they're understanding if they sell a site, there is conditions against it. If they buy a site, what conditions there are. Because there are classic examples of land being sold with services across it. The purchaser doesn't realise that there's a service on it, goes to dig up, finds there's a water pipe or a sewer pipe, or finds that there's some other condition assigned to the land, and then they could be liable, or the council who sold the property could be liable to them because they hadn't informed them of the condition. And again, you can type in acquisition details, who was bought of, how much, and here's the conditions right away. Whatever types we're going to have, boundaries or whatever conditions. Again, configurable. You can add your own if you need to, put in your descriptions and store them in the database. We also have a planning tab, which we're going to show in a second. What it does is it takes a spatial boundary and does a spatial query of the property to find what planning applications are within a certain distance of the our property itself. So again, it makes it very easy if someone wants to check any existing planning on that site, they'll know about them in the system as well. And then we have a miscellaneous tab, which allows you to put notes against the house. So that could be a note about, if this is a pensioner's house, they need, special access. You need to make sure you bring a badge when you go to the site. Whatever it is, you can put all the information in and store it in there if needs be. So it's a very advanced form, allows the council, local authority to store all the information that they need to about their asset, about their properties that they're managing. And any of the note information can also come up in the tooltip field. So when you hover over the asset on the map, it'll actually show you what's in the note on the tooltip. So again, that means there's very quick access for the user. You can see as well, we have a link to IDOCS, which is the local authority document management choice here in Ireland, developed by the LGCSB. But again, we can change that interface to link to any document management system. And you can see here the note is there, the tooltip is a non-disposed asset, it's color coded accordingly. And when you click on a feature, you also got the action then to edit the record, delete it, or update it. Here we're going to have a search bar. So again, everything is very simple, 2 real buttons that the guys have to worry about. Again, the search bar, very simple, similar to the search control we had in the smart client for Sligo that we showed you earlier on. Run your filter, map and zoom to the record, and you can actually see the feature on the map and use it. So a nice little search control makes it very easy to do either address searches or asset searches, and then being able to edit the record, zoom to the record, or just view the record itself. And actually, so now we're going to show is when you click on the feature on the map, you will be able to see that the note has been changed now, flagged asset. And there are action buttons when you click on a record. So you've got the asset view, the edit, or the remove. So if we do the asset view or the edit, we can now go back to the form for that record. And if we want, we can go in. And it also now shows, because it's captured, any intersecting townlands as well. So again, you can build these nice kind of spatial rules to actually automatically touch the data, to analyze data. So again, the asset here, we can do an edit, brings up the form, change some information. So we change the type of the department, and we're going to change the asset value, I think, in this case. Yeah. And it must be an Irish asset because it's going up in value every week. These properties, and that now, once you go back to the record, it will show a different value on the tooltip, I think. And we are, and also we have, so this is the printing. You also have the ability to edit the polygon as well, so you can edit the polygon. But here's the print control. I love this. It's always been a function in SmartLine, but it's the nice print control. So you're going to print whatever's in the green box. You can shrink and rotate that green box to fit the area you want to print. You can make sure it's printing in the right location and move to a certain point, and it'll fit to that point. And you can grab the little handles and expand and shrink and turn. I love the turning bit, and get it to do the area. So again, very accurate printing. You can then print to specific layouts with your corporate disclaimers and ordnance survey copyrights and everything on the disclaimers, on the maps, so that when they're printed, they're meeting all the land registry type standards, and you can have things like coordinates or whatever on the map. Now this example is just a mock-up of what we have done. Again, I think the data here is all kind of mocked up anyway, and you can see the coordinates on the map, scale bar. But again, that's just a sample. And Monahan have a proper map in their version.
And different templates can be saved as well. So if it needs to be for land registry, it can be set to different levels as well.
Yeah, and all configurable as well. So I think it's very easy to make changes yourself as well. And again, that's the one thing. Everything here is configured through the Map Studio configuration tool. So it's a web-based application where you can set up layers, set up colors, set up templates, change your workflows. Again, you don't necessarily need to get IMGS involved if you want to add extra fields or add extra kind of queries or searches. It's all done through the Workflow Manager, which comes as part of Map Enterprise.
It's just worth mentioning there on the remove tool, which we just showed, being able to remove the assets. It depends on the council. Obviously, you may want to have that function in there to be able to remove, others don't. So again, as Ciaran said, it is configurable. So if you don't want to use it, you have the ability to be able to remove an asset, for example, or delete an asset. Again, you have that ability to be able to take it out there, which is quite handy. So I'm just going to jump back into the presentation here. Thanks for that, Ciaran. So it's also worth mentioning, there's also additional workflows Ciaran had mentioned in the September release, and we will have mobile. So again, if there was a workflow where the guys in the council need to go out and actually do a physical inspection of a particular site or a particular asset, they can through a mobile app. So again, you can configure a mobile app. It works on iOS, Windows and Android, and where you can create a workflow and the individual goes out and, for instance, they could fill out a digital form and capture more information on the asset, take some pictures, whatever needs to be done. And again, that information can then be synced back to the organization.
Actually, I was the mobile platform has been used. Some of you might have seen some of the Hexagon announcements last week at Hexagon Live. It was used by the South African Census Authority. So they actually had 2,000 mobile inspectors in the census in Africa. And actually, we think about censuses in here in Ireland, and it's pretty simple when every house is, everybody's houses are defined and are safe to a certain extent. Actually, I think it was one of the other African countries where one of the census guys had a guy with him who was carrying a Kalashnikov just to protect him. And in South Africa, they lost, I think it was 200 tablets because the people kept getting robbed doing it. But the solution was used for that. It was used in both areas of good connectivity and bad, used by 2,000 inspectors, so really showing it could scale up and capture the information in the field. And it works in an offline first mode. So if there's no connection, it'll save the data to the phone or the tablet, and then when you get your connection, it'll bring that back out. So that is official release with the Map Enterprise 2018 is in September. Also coming in the 2018 September release is the ability to do geoprocessing in Map Enterprise as well. So what we talk about geoprocessing is doing advanced remote sensing modeling, which you would normally associate with a Imagine Professional inside Map Enterprise. So for argument's sake, you could do on your property a change detection workflow to find new properties. So actually use area multiband imagery from, say, Ordnance Survey Ireland or Blue Sky, and actually have a workflow that shows you all the new properties in your council, all the new buildings that are built.
Absolutely. Then planning applications against that information.
Check if they're planning,
clever stuff,
looking for green space. And then look and go, hold on a second, there's something had happened at one of our sites it's an illegal build. It's someone trying to take over the site. Which these things happen. So again, this geoprocessing engine, which is now coming out, using all the functionality of 40 years of Imagine IPR, but wrapping it up into a dashboardy, a visual way, the same way as we're doing with the rest of the Map Enterprise functionality. I think that's going to open up some really interesting ideas of things we can do with this product.
Absolutely, it's very powerful too, and it's also worth mentioning, you had mentioned around the mobile piece, that it's offline and online, because you know yourself, in some of the councils there is quite remote areas, they wouldn't have, say, 3G or 4G access, right, so that they can absolutely, yeah, exactly, there you go, the stock's a great example of it, absolutely. Visualized asset dashboards as well. You can see that largest picture over on the right hand side there, and you've got some little clusters of points. Again, you can also create these really, really friendly looking dashboards, something that Dublin use Map Enterprise for at the moment, so around their CRM. So again, that could be clusters of particular assets in particular areas. So again, you can quite quickly analyze or visually be able to analyze what the different assets are in particular areas, different hotspots, etc. And the final piece is, again, in the September release, that will be able to link in with different business intelligence. I think they're launching with Microsoft Power BI. I know some government agencies are using different ones, some are Tableau, some are Power BI, but again, it's just nice to know that they have that functionality. The final piece I just wanted to touch on quick was around reporting, and every single council and the majority of state agencies have it. So again, why not utilize that tool? And I know this is really, really important for anybody who's involved in asset management, especially from an audit point of view, that if an auditor does come in, that you can turn around and go, here are all a particular amount of assets in a particular area. So really, really quickly, because I can see from the people that are on, majority of you already know about FME. So it comes in 3 different flavors. So across the country, everybody has it either in a form of desktop, server, or cloud. And with FME, what it does, it can link into the likes of Map Enterprise, into the database in the background. And if you didn't just want that simple Excel report, you can create really, really dynamic reports, whether they're in HTML. Again, you can make quite styled Excel or Word, even PowerPoint reports you can do based on it. So you can have dynamic maps. And I just wanted to jump out quick and just show just 2 quick examples. So again, you could have, for instance, here's a detailed planning analysis report. This is one that's preliminary, for example. So again, you could have a particular asset. You could run a report on a new asset, and again, you can have some basic information. You can see the polygon there. You can zoom in and out. Again, it's as I said, dynamic and responsive. And then you can see that particular asset against flood zones, so different data sets. In this example, I think it's 22 different data sets the polygon is basically analyzed against. So the likes of heritage, environment, and then there's some miscellaneous as well. And then you can see the particular polygon, and then just 2 little buffers it intersects with. You can also have kind of statistical style reports as well, like this is a housing stock report, but it's on a very similar theme. So again, asset could have a particular XY or a particular zone, and they can show me all assets or their vacant sites or whatever it may be within a particular area. Here's the buffer again. You can zoom in, zoom out. You can see some statistical analysis there, so the amount of houses within that, what they are, how many are local authority, the percentage, and then you've got some charts and graphs, and then finally down here you have some little points on a map as well, so with tool tips as well. So again, really, really clever ways of how you can start to extract that information out there and present it in a really, really powerful way, especially to senior management who necessarily don't need to be GIS or asset engineers, but they just need to get an answer, as Ciaran had mentioned earlier on. Really, really a handy way to be able to drag that information out. So again, just for myself, just to summarize, so feel free to ask any questions if you do, just because we're coming to the end now. So the asset management solution, it can be quickly deployed. I think in like Monahan, it only took us about 2 weeks to deploy, I think it was roughly. So really, really quick to deploy. It's not quite a heavy weight, as Ciaran had mentioned that it's lightweight and it's targeted. Authorities can edit and maintain their own workflow. So again, this is quite important out there in the marketplace. And you think of what other asset management solutions are out there. The ability to be able to edit it, so if legislation changes or if regulatory requirements change, to be able to yourself as the council go in and edit that workflow to capture an extra piece of information or to take a piece of information away. It's nice to know that you can do that without having to involve ourselves or a third party every single time. So that really reduces the cost of ownership and keeps the system kind of future-proof and relevant for longer. And then finally, the solution can be expanded to support other needs in the council. So as we had mentioned, things like dashboards, or if there was a different type of workflow you wanted, whether it be mobile, again, it can be expanded out to do this with very, very little effort.
I think as well, I think there, but for our customers, we've seen a lot of them for asset management or this kind of property management are using very heavy applications. But I think in today's market, people are looking for lighter applications because they don't want a solution that's going to take a week's training to actually get someone up and running. We can train you as an end user on this application in a morning, like in an hour, 2 hour session.
So, 2.5 actually.
2.5. Yeah. 2.5. So it really is the speed of deployment. It's the low cost, total cost of ownership. This application can run very light. It's browser, so actually it doesn't have to be installed on every machine. It centrally can manage and configure through your IT. And I really like Map Enterprise. I think it's a fantastic initiative from Hexagon. It's a great product for that now a few years, and the kind of apps that you can create like this asset register that are really useful but providing very easy to use but powerful functionality in a lightweight application, which I think is where I think the amount of people who are going to use a full desktop GIS over the next few years is just dying off, and it's really going to be down to very small, high complexity applications will only use full desktops. We are now at the position where most geospatial workflows can be done in the browser. So I think we have time for some questions, Garrett, do we?
Yeah, we do. So I'm just waiting for one just came in there. Okay, so there's a few flying in. How can we reduce the time for any facilities to reach at any point? Sanjit, can you probably clarify that a little bit for me? That question?
There's no question there, which is on the databases. So from a database point of view, the solution will support SQL Server and Oracle. It also does support Map Enterprise does support other databases, but actually some of our functionality that we've developed is dependent on the SQL Server, so that's why we would prefer either SQL Server or Oracle, but there is capabilities with a bit of development to use other databases as well. But yeah, very lightweight application and can use all kind of main industry sites. I think that the question there is how do you speed up the processes with this application. I think one area is that we were talking to one customer was we can actually import in existing PRO data, so the Property Registration Authority data. So if they have the polygons, we can import them in and then either automatically using FME bring them in as default property records or draw over them. So you can actually do a copy record. So you can click on a PRA record or a planning application and say convert to property record, and it'll copy the geometry across. So we have quick ways that if you're coming from an organization where maybe your property records were in a paper base, or if you're getting the property boundaries from the land or the Property Registration Authority, we can bring that data in. We can import it using FME and speed up your data capture process. So, and we do have other tools that can speed up that markup piece. So that I think that'll help.
Especially in the fire situation, that you can import that information into his previous fire fire information. Again, that detail can just be imported.
Yeah, we could, and we can overlay other have other layers available in the application. Map Enterprise supports file format and also supports web services, so we can bring in data from anywhere really. Okay,
that's from everybody now, guys. Thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I'm sure most of you have Ciaran and I's contact details, but we'll share them out with everybody, and any questions we can get back to, we'll come back directly. Thank you.
Thanks everybody. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.